What's good, people? It's George from More Life Studios, the guy who's trying to grow his print shop from the basement to an actual print shop. And in this episode, I'm going to be giving you the blueprint of how to embroider on the toughest of caps. So maybe you've finally went out your way and bought the embroidery machine that you wanted, and you've got your first couple jobs and you're pulling your hair out because you can't embroider on caps. You keep snapping needles, you keep hearing the sound of death. So yeah, trust me, I've been there before. When you're hearing horrible sounds from your machine, you're constantly rethreading the needle, and you sat there with your head in your hands thinking, is it my machine? Do I need a new machine? So I'm going to be teaching you in this episode 5 main steps to be able to embroider on any caps in your embroidery studio. Let's pull up the blueprint and look at the first bullet point on the list. So the first point we've got is correct hooping of the hat. So one of the first mistakes I see in embroidery shops, and that I've learned from embroidering out my home, is to take care of your hoops. Make sure you're looking after and tightening the hoops at all time, because if not, you're going to get bad registration and you're also going to get needle snapping. So let's take a look at how we can make sure our hoops are up to scratch at all times. So let's slide our hoop onto our hooping station. So we can grab our cap and give it a thorough massage. Make sure you loosen up the front of the brim. This helps a lot. So just give it a good massage. Don't crinkle it too much, because then you're going to get some creases in the cap. So let's put our backing in. And we're just going to pull the sweatband back like this to make sure we're not embroidering the sweatband into the cap. Then slide it on. And then we're going to make sure we're pulling the hat right over the back supports. And we're going to pull the sweatband out on the side. And we're going to real pull down on that cap. Make sure you're putting lots of tension on the caps. And then we're going to make sure these little teeth are on the cap. Slide it over. And then we can pull on this side of the cap. And then we're just going to make sure it's on all the way, and our teeth are right in where they need to be. Then we can straighten up the cap. Keep pulling down on the back of the cap, and then we're going to tighten the clasp, and you should hear it locking just like that. And now we can take it off, and then we can put our little paper clips on the back of the cap just to lock it in a bit more. And the cap should not move anywhere. If you can feel movement in the cap, you need to tighten your hoops. So these screws on the cap determine how tight this hoop is going to be. So as you can see, I've got mine literally all the way over to the left, so it can't go any further. So number 2 on the blueprint is the cap driver. So the cap driver is what we use to attach our hoop onto the embroidery machine. So let's take a closer look at the cap driver. So the cap driver may look like a complicated piece of equipment, but it's really not. The bolts here control of how high the cap driver will sit on the machine. So I'll show you on the machine now of how these bolts will make the cap driver sit on the machine. So let's slide our cap driver onto the machine. So can you see the space between the needle plate and the cap driver? My cap driver is basically nearly sat on the machine. It's just got enough clearance so it doesn't hit the needle plate. So the way I set my cap driver is I loosened these 4 bolts, and then I got my Allen key and I sat it between there so the cap driver can't fall down. And then I proceeded to tighten these 4 bolts back up. And now my cap driver sits real close to the needle plate without hitting it. So you're probably thinking, why would you even mess with something like that on the machine? So basically, by lowering our cap driver, the front panel of the heart is going to sit closer to the needle plate. I'll give you an example right now. So when we put our cap on the machine, let's just bring it out a bit. So our cap is right on that needle plate. We're not going to have any bouncing, as you can see. So let's rotate the machine. There's no movement between the needle plate and the cap. People call this the bounce of death. If your cap is bouncing, it's going to cause lots of needle breaks and blockages in the machine. So make sure you lower that cap driver and get it as close to the needle plate as possible. So next on the blueprint is using the correct backing and the correct cap for the job. So the backing we're going to be using today is 3-ounce Tearaway stabilizer. So if you're not using the correct backing, you're going to have lots of cap wastage and you're going to cause lots of bird nesting and problems in the machine that can lead to serious issues. So we're using the Brothread 3-ounce Tearaway backing, and we're only using 1 of these sheets. I can drop a link down below of where you can get this stuff off Amazon. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make is not doing research on blanks. I've fallen victim to this mistake before. If your embroidery is not at a certain level, you're going to struggle to do hard structured caps. And if you've promised a client you can do that, it's going to cause real stress down the line. This video isn't about trying to play it safe with our embroidery. I'm trying to give you the blueprint of how to embroider on any cap. So when that client comes along and they choose the stiffest hat out there, then if you follow these steps in the video, you should be able to embroider on any cap the customer brings. Next up on our blueprint is going to be needle size. Needle size is everything, and if you're not using the right size needle, you're going to be struggling super hard trying to embroider on stiff caps. So I'm going to be giving you 3 needles that you're going to need when embroidering stiff caps. When I first started learning about needle size, it seemed very daunting. I was like, what's a 75/11? In order of needle size, let's break it down. We've got a 75/11, we've got an 80/12, and we've got a 90/14. But let me break it down for you real quick. I did say I'm going to be giving you the blueprint to embroidery. So garments like hoodies, polos, caps, blankets, We're going to be using the 7511 DB XK5 Gross Beckett needle. So let's have this up on screen. So for them stiffer garments and them stiffer caps, we're going to pull out the organ needle 8012 DB XK5. So let's pop that up on screen. So when we've got that super stiff cap or that puff embroidery that just isn't working, we're going to pull out the 9014 DB XK5. So let's pop that up on screen. This is your blueprint of needle choice of where to go next if you keep getting them needle breaks. And just a side note, DB XK5, always go with the DB XK5 for industrial embroidery needles. The DB XK5 has the right needle hole at the top of the needle for industrial thread. So make sure when you're buying your needles, it says DB XK5. I have made that mistake before when buying needles. And I'm gonna have all these needles linked in the description below in order of size of needle, so you can order straight from Amazon. Lastly, on the blueprint is timing hook issues and machine maintenance. If you've tried everything in this video and you're still getting needle breaks and bird nesting in your machine, it is probably to do with a timing issue. This is not a simple issue if you're new to embroidery. I've been around embroidery for about 3 or 4 years, working in an embroidery shop and doing it at home. So I've clocked up a lot of hours on this embroidery machine. So now I can confidently fix a timing hook issue. There's a great video on YouTube that I'm going to pop up on screen of how to fix a timing hook issue. A timing hook issue isn't the end of the world, and I do suggest that you give it a go, because hiring a technician and finding a technician in your area every time you have this issue is going to be pretty hard and costly. But if you're not confident to get the timing hook on time, I suggest hiring a technician. If it's not done right, it can lead to further breaks in the machine. So we're going to pull off our needle plate, and then we can just take off the sides of the rotary hook cover. So we can take the little arm out here so we can get a better look and take our bobbin thread out. So this right here is our timing hook. So this right here is why it's called a timing hook. We've got a little hook on the machine that catches the top thread and makes stitches. So we're just going to turn our degrees on our machine. And the reason it's called a timing hook is because our hook on the timing hook should be hitting the needle right at the exact point, is so it can catch the thread and pull the thread into the machine. So you've got daily maintenance on the machine. Make sure that you're blowing out the machine with compressed air, and make sure there's no needles or lint stuck in the machine that's going to cause damages. So make sure you're oiling the machine every day. I like to relate it to a car. If you don't put oil in your car, it's going to lead to failures. The embroidery machine is exactly the same. The more you take care of it, the better the machine is going to run. Every day before use, You should be blowing out this area of the machine with compressed air. And you should be also giving the rotary hook a little bit of oil before use every time. And I like to give the rotary hook a couple of spins just to get that oil moving in the machine before I start the machine. It wouldn't make sense if I wasn't going to give you an example of me embroidering on a super stiff cap at the end of the video. So yeah, let's make sure the cap is stiff. As you can hear, the cap is super stiff. These 110 flex fits tested me on a recent job that I did. So this is the logo that we're going to be embroidering right here. So let's break it down. I'm going to show you the full method and reasoning behind the decisions I make when embroidering this logo. So let's start off with the white. So the white text is going to be closest to the bottom. So for the white, we're going to use a 90-14 needle, because the closer you go down to the bottom of the cap, the tougher it is. So we're not going to want many needle breaks, so we're going to use a 90-14 for the white. So as you can see, the orange on this logo, so the digger or the excavator is very small detail, so it's going to be going over itself lots of times. So again, I know it's going to be tough for the machine, so we're going to use a 90-14 needle for the orange in the logo, just to make sure that we're not getting as many needle breaks. And for the black in the logo, we're going to be using an 80-12, that I wasn't having that much thread breaks or needle breaks using an 80-12 needle for the black, so we're going to stick with that. So that's a lineup of needles we're going to use. Let's put our cap onto the machine. So we're using needle 6, so we can drop needle 6 down. And then we're going to get our ruler. This comes in handy for placement, so you're going to get the correct placement every time on the heart. But it is also crucial that we're not going to go too far down on the heart, right where the hard bit is, and cause many needle breaks. So make sure you're measuring where you put in the starting point of the design. So let's put needle 6 down, and we're going to go like 1.5 off the heart. So we're just going to come a touch up. So now we're sitting at like 1.7 to 8, and now let's trace it. So as you can see, we're not too far down at the bottom of the cap. So let's run the design. So it's hot off the press, and I didn't count one needle break or thread break there, did you? If you follow the blueprint of this video, you will be able to embroider with 0 thread breaks and 0 needle breaks. Just check the detail in the work. As you can see, the excavator is super small detail, and it's a very busy area, and I didn't have one thread break or 1 needle break. If you want to embroider like this, just follow the blueprint of this video. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments down below if it helped you in any way, or if you need any more help. If you've followed the list and you're still struggling embroidering caps, get in touch with me through my website or through my Instagram. I'm always here to help, and we'll get your machine running like this one behind me. So in 2026, I've got more printing videos coming up of how you can upgrade your skills in the printing business game and elevate your shop to the next level. It's George from More Life Studios. I'll catch you guys in the next one.